How are you all doing today? Good, I hope. I've had a very full-on day actually. I've been filming some things for some of the performing arts schools that I teach at and work for, and my own performing arts school. So I've been really active. I'm very ready to sit down and have a read. My daughter wanted her playroom back, which is fair enough. So we've got some guests this evening joining us for chapter 6. A little bit like chapter 3, this is a really, really special chapter to me because Eddie, the character that we're about to meet, he is a member of my family. Or based on a member of my family, should I say. I don't have a tree, talking tree, in my family tree. But yeah, so he's very special. And from the feedback that I've had from all those that have read it, he's a very popular character. So I hope you enjoy. Chapter 6, Eddie. The drop from the window was no more than a foot high. "Watch your step," Kit said, going through first. The white butterfly followed behind her. River reached the tip of her foot over the windowsill to check the distance. Her hands clung tightly to the frame, even though she was able to touch the floor with ease. She perched herself on the edge and jumped, landing with both feet on the crunchy grass. "Easy," she said, smugly brushing her hands together. Despite the breeze the girls had just felt, the air outside was muggy. "Wow, it's hot out here," River complained as beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. As quickly as she wiped them away, more would form. It felt much harder to breathe in the heat. It smelled stale, like stinky socks that had been in the laundry bin for too long. "How peculiar," Kit said as she looked around the garden. "I wonder why Nana didn't show us this place before." She turned to look at River, who was wiping her brow with the sleeve of her t-shirt. "Because it's just a dried up old garden, that's why. Who would want to come and be out here?" Every leaf in the garden rustled, as though they had understood what she'd said. River quickly stood up straight, suddenly unsure of her surroundings. "I beg your pardon," bellowed a deep male voice. "Grandpa?" Kit said doubtfully. The voice was very distorted, like someone shouting underwater. River went to run over to Kit, but tripped over her own foot, face planting straight as a plank of wood into the crunchy grass. "Ouch!" "Ha-ha!" the voice cackled. "Serves you right, that does." River felt a gentle flutter by her ear. The white butterfly had flown to her side. River, once again, was dazed and confused. Staying as close to the ground as she could, she wiggled her nose to check it was still intact, then crawled along the grass, only using her arms until she was at Kit's feet. Kit stayed where she was, curious where the voice was coming from. "Psst," River said, attempting to stay undercover, although it was far too late for that. "I'm down here." "I can see you, River," Kit said through gritted teeth. "Get up. You are embarrassing us." Kit giggled apologetically. "Sorry about my sister. She didn't mean to be so rude." She squinted scoldingly down at River. "Who do you think you are coming out here and saying—" A wash of emotion filled the voice, and it sounded as if it was hard for him to speak. "Saying," he gulped, "that we're just an old, garden." He was clearly holding back tears. "Who does he mean by we?" River asked under her breath, tugging at Kit's trousers. She was slightly alarmed that there might be more than one angry person in the garden. "Get off," Kit said, kicking her leg free from River's hand. "I'm not even touching you," the voice wailed into a fit of tears. "No, not you," Kit shouted into the air. "I was talking to my sister. Sorry. Please stop crying." The garden had gone from being sweltering hot to raining huge droplets in a matter of seconds. They were falling fast and steady, soaking the girls completely. The white butterfly speedily found shelter underneath a leaf that had fallen onto the grass. River stood up, pulling her t-shirt over her head to keep her hair from getting soaked. Kit nudged her with a harsh elbow. "Say something," she whispered. River rolled her eyes. She didn't like being bossed about, but they were getting wet. "Sorry, I didn't mean it," she said reluctantly. I didn't think there was anyone out here." "Oh, I see," the voice said, sniffing rather loudly before continuing. "So just because you thought no one was listening, you thought it was okay to say mean things." His voice filled the garden like the roar of a lion. River's legs turned to jelly and she wobbled round to stand behind Kit, using her as a shield, firmly digging her fingers into her sister's waist. "Ouch!" Kit shrieked, clearly feeling a little uneasy herself now and shivering from the chill of her wet clothes. The rain was getting worse and worse. "Sorry for disturbing you," she said in the politest voice she could muster through the nerves. She stepped backwards, crushing River's foot in the process, and they both clumsily shuffled back a little. "We'll go home now." Kit spun around and shoved River towards the window. The earth rumbled, the grass shook, and the ground beneath them splintered, forming tiny little cracks all over the garden. Both girls fell flat on their bottoms, while the butterfly shot up into the air from under its leaf. Mouths open wide, they sat petrified, watching the one and only tree in the garden grow and grow and grow until it touched the sky and its roots spread the entire size of the garden. "Please don't go," the tree said through a barky mouth, and he wiped his eyes with a leaf, and the rain finally slowed. Neither girl could bring themselves to speak or move. They just stared up at the talking tree. "I didn't mean to scare you," he spoke a little more softly this time. "We've been waiting a really, really long time for you to find us. 56 years to be exact." The tree bent its long trunk down towards the girls and reached a branch out to their faces, snapping their jaws shut. "It's rude to stare, girls," he said strictly. "Don't forget your manners." Who are you?" Kit stuttered. River was white as a ghost. "Oh, I do apologise," he said, a few leaves falling from his branches as he chuckled to himself. "I should have introduced myself sooner." He ruffled his leaves like a bird ruffling its feathers. "I'm Eddie." Kit stood up first, wringing out the bottom of her t-shirt. "Let me just get this straight," she said. "You are a tree." "Good observation," Eddie winked. "And you," Kit continued, pointing to his trunk, "can talk?" "That is correct, my dear. The words you hear are coming from my mouth." He rearranged his branches so a bunch of leaves circled his face, highlighting that he was, indeed, a talking tree. The trunk of the tree now wore Eddie's jolly face. Everything was there, 2 eyes, 2 ears, a rather large nose, and a very big mouth. "I hate to rush you, Kit," he said, "but we need to get a move on." "How do you know my name?" "No time for silly questions, child. Pick your sister up and let's get to it." River was literally planted in the ground. She sat as still as a garden gnome as she watched the tree have a conversation with Kit. Kit did as she was told and went over to help River up. River pushed and Kit pulled, and between them they plucked her from the earth. River couldn't take her eyes off Eddie. Once at her feet, she walked straight past Kit and over to him. She placed her hands firmly on his cheeks and his bark crumbled slightly. He felt softer than he looked, and he was warm, warm like a cup of hot chocolate on a winter's day. "Do be careful, child," he said. "My bark isn't what it used to be. Besides, your hand is up my nostril." "Yuck!" she spluttered. Eddie looked offended for a split second, then wiggled his roots and focused back on the matter at hand. River wished she hadn't said that out loud. She took her hands away and brushed them against her leggings, hoping to be discreetly cleaning them off. The last thing she wanted was tree snot all over her hands. Eddie exhaled heavily. He suddenly looked very old and incredibly sleepy. He could barely keep his eyes open. He yawned, reaching his branches high in the sky, nearly knocking Kit to the floor with one of them. "Who are you?" River asked. "Never in my life have I met a tree that can talk," she said. "Are you questioning my credibility? Just because you haven't met a tree that can talk, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. And who's to say trees haven't been talking? Maybe you," he said, poking one of his skinnier branches into River's chest, "haven't had your ears open wide enough to hear them." River rubbed her chest where his branch had poked and screwed up her face. It had hurt a little, both the poke and the dig. Surely if trees had been talking to her, she would have heard them. She fiddled with her ears, pulling them as open as she could. "And if I must answer your question," he paused to look at both girls in turn, "I am the family tree. He bowed proudly, causing a few more leaves to fall, tangling themselves in the girl's hair. River looked at Kit and burst out laughing. Family tree? What on earth was she hearing? She didn't know what had come over her, but all of a sudden she found the whole scenario very funny. I must be dreaming, she chuckled. And then Kit couldn't help it. River's laughter was contagious, and she started giggling too. Pinch me, Kit said, sticking out her arm. River happily obliged. Ouch! Kit pinched River back on the top of her arm. Ow! River shouted through her laughter. And then they were chasing each other around the garden, trying to wake each other up from their supposed dreams. The sound of laughter in the garden after so many years was a delight to Eddie's ears. Despite the fact that time was fast escaping him and there was much work to be done, he couldn't help but take a few minutes to enjoy the sound of happiness around him. After all, what would life be without laughter? I really love how that chapter ends. I think it's really, really important to find those special moments, and when you do have those moments where you are very happy, you're really laughing. I know that I absolutely love it when I find that with my daughter when she finds something really, really funny. I try really hard not to interrupt them and just really embrace those moments. So I hope you and your families are finding little moments of happiness throughout the day where you really laugh and really embrace the time together. I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 7, which is Weed Attack. Can't find it. Weed Attack. See you tomorrow.